Hello, everybody, and welcome
Hello.
to our second episode of Both Sides of the Story. We are now live on Instagram. I'm Gracie.
And I'm Sophie. And we've launched this series where we're interviewing British entrepreneurs who just absolutely inspire and we're in awe of. So we hope that they will inspire you too. We have no doubt they will.
We'll be quizzing them about the highs and the lows and finding out how they got through the tougher times.
And today we have the honour of interviewing Holly Tucker MBE, founder of Not on the High Street and Holly & Co, which is just down the road from me, and is how we met Holly. So I am obsessed with her podcast, Conversations of Inspiration, and I was listening to it, walking along, and after some social media stalking, I recognised her coming towards me and took that opportunity to talk to her. So please do take that opportunity today to ask some questions in the comment boxes. We have a feed of Instagram
Getting
here
it ready
to watch along.
So Holly's journey is one that inspires thousands. She is the queen of cheerleading small businesses, and 1 minute in her company will honestly leave you feeling like you can take over the world. So welcome, Holly.
Hello, hi. I don't know whether I was being shown or whether I was just looking like a special character, but lovely to be here. Thank you for welcoming me on your new venture here. I'm your second guest, am I?
Second guest,
You
yeah.
are.
We are so
And
honoured to have you, and thank you so much, Holly, for supporting us and joining us today. Honestly, it means so much to both of us. You can see we're all giddy.
I know. And it was partly inspired by you when I cornered you again in Holly & Co to pick your brains.
I'm so pleased. I think it's brilliant, and you're both brilliant at it. I can already tell. So, yeah. So I can't wait for it. Thank you for inviting me.
So Holly, we want to start by just saying, when you look at someone super successful like yourself, it's easy to think that the journey was smooth sailing. But I mean, God, you've had a real ride, and what possibly could look like overnight success is actually years of hard work and sacrifice. So could you take us back to the early days and tell us a little bit about how your entrepreneurial journey began?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was only actually talking to someone today about how there is this sort of perception potentially that we all fall into, where we can look at someone and just think that they must have had some secret magic formula or the silver bullet or anything like that. And I know I've spoken to you too about it. You know, the absolute truth of all of it is, you know, my journey started 17 years ago when I was 26, 27. And I basically started by deciding that I wanted to be a small business myself. I decided that I was going to become a gazillionaire by reinventing wreaths.
And
it's just not a sexy story, but the thing
it's an amazing story. We love it.
I wanted to be creative again. I wanted to, I'd gone through some trauma in my life and I needed to get creative. I've been in advertising and publishing. And so I decided to reinvent wreaths and make them all beautiful using vegetables and things like that. And I then realized that I needed to sell these wreaths. And so I lived in Chiswick at the time in West London and thought that I could sell them at the Christmas fair, and realized that there wasn't a Christmas fair. So in between my day job at lunchtime and the evenings, I set up the first fair so that I could have the prominent trestle table to sell my wreaths, and that was all
I love your motivation behind that, to get the best table.
Yeah, the best trestle table. And so the fair was a huge success. I had over 100 stands, which actually, now I think about it, that is just really a lot of work. Sold all the wreaths, couldn't stand wreaths anymore. Realized that actually pulling together small businesses under one roof, the town hall roof, was really great, and I loved it, and it did really well. So I ditched the wreath business overnight and I started the fair business. And I set up Your Local Fair, my first sort of, my second business after the wreath business, where I put on fairs all over West London, where I brought together what I felt was the best of small businesses. And sometimes they were successful, sometimes they weren't successful. But when they were successful, I realized what I was doing was connecting small businesses with discerning customers. And potentially our high street at the time was being dominated by the Starbucks. You know, we had TK Maxx, we had or Primark launching. And there was just this real want to find unique small businesses. Now, that happened. They nearly broke me, nearly had a nervous breakdown doing them because I got blamed when it was snowing and raining and all these sorts of things. But the idea...
all yourself as well, just setting.
Yeah, I did the whole thing myself. I mean, I will it was so hard. And I'd met my other half, Frank, at the time, and my parents and my sister, and they would be roped in to carry the buggies up the town hall steps, or, you know, hand out, you know, charge everyone 50p to come in, and the amount of hassle we got from 50p and people refusing to pay 50p. I mean, it was bizarre. But what I noticed was that when we got it right, there was this electricity between the customer and the small business finding each other. And so that is when basically I sort of wrote this letter to all my small businesses saying, you know what, you've made it so difficult for me. You blame me for the rain, you blame me for the snow. All I wanted to do was help you. I'm off to have I was pregnant with my son. I'm off to have my baby, and I might have another fair next year. And when he was 3 months old, Harry was 3 months old, I realized that I could never, it's a great lesson actually, you can never unknow what you know. Sometimes that's a nightmare because you actually don't want to know what you've just been told. But I knew that I had captured something. I knew that if I didn't solve this issue of this archaic way of small businesses selling, and the fact that they were being kicked off the high street, who was going to do it? And so that is the start of the idea, which is Not on the High Street, which was basically a 24-hour-a-day fair, where small businesses couldn't blame me for the rain. I did have to teach them what the internet was, basically, but it was the new town hall roof, and and that really is where it all began 15 years ago. We set up Not on the High Street.
I love the name as well, Not on the High Street. So I remember when I first heard about it, and it was just so clear what it was, and it was so exciting because it was like this new thing. You can't just go out there and, like you said, go to Primark or whichever other big chain and you could just find it. But one thing I wanted to pick up on there was we talked about the really tough times. And I know that when we hear people's tough times, we always think, yeah, but you know, it's fine now, they're fine now. And in hindsight, you know, you get that perspective and you know that with time things heal as well. But actually, what was it like, you know, when you had to make that change and you put all that hard work in? And you know, I know you've had some roller coaster times with Not on the High Street as well, but actually what was it that got you through all of those times, and what would you kind of advise to people?
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I think us women don't do the best, well, we're not necessarily always as open and honest as we should be. And I think that takes time though, because if I think about my younger self building Not on the High Street, would I be able to talk about all my lows and, you know, what I'm not good at? Definitely not. You know, the imposter syndrome was very strong there. And I think we all feel that, right? Because, you know, if you start a business and then you start saying all the things that you're not very good at, well, that doesn't really feel like the beginning of your journey. So there is this sort of, I think that for those of us who have been through a bit of a journey, we've got more of a thicker skin, we have the war scars, we need to start sharing them, because then hopefully those who are coming through the ranks can actually, maybe they won't publicly say their issues, but at least they'll know deep down. And I think when I started Not on the High Street, I didn't have that. I didn't have, you know, we didn't actually have bloody smartphones, nor did we have Instagram. So I didn't, you know, if you think about, we didn't have any of that knowledge, you know, that women had fallen and picked themselves up, that, you know, all of these things. So for me, going through these hard times is, number one is now, as I get braver to be more honest about them, by, you know, even admitting, you know, in those early days, you know, we absolutely made it up as we went along. You know, we had to, you know, the whole business relied on us walking the walk and talking the talk at the same time, and never letting anyone know any different. And it's just like what, you know, we say to our children, don't we? You know, you've got to try and then you're going to learn. But we as adults don't necessarily give ourselves that same get out of jail free card. You know, we expect ourselves to be perfect. Women feel that they should be experts before taken seriously. And so it's been an interesting journey. And, you know, I would say that the one thing now I look back, that sort of golden thread, is the maternal instinct I have over my companies. And the reason I have a maternal instinct is because I've put purpose at the center of both businesses that I have given birth to, which means that I'm not maternal over the revenue and the hiring and firing. I'm maternal over the plight of my business to change the world. You know, I'm fiercely protective over it. And I think when you put that at the center of your business, it allows you to hold on to something when the shit hits the fan. It allows you to keep anchored. It allows you to be, know that your purpose is going to get you out of bed when you don't want to get out of bed. And so that's essential.
Talking about purpose, I think there's so much pressure these days to live the perfectly balanced life. And something we know that you don't like the term is work-life balance. And that, you know, if you genuinely, truly love what you do and you have a purpose as a whole, then everything should just merge into one. But I think actually a lot of people really struggle to find their purpose, and it can take years and years, but you seem to have found your purpose quite young. So how did you find your purpose? And also, you know, what advice would you give to people that are struggling to find theirs, and, you know, that pressure of like, oh God, why am I here?
At the moment, you know, with everything that Corona has sent our way.
You know what? You know, purpose, you know, your purpose is, if I looked at my last days on this planet and I really wanted to think about what people thought about me, what people thought that I had achieved or what I had done, and who had I helped, you know, that really, if I work backwards, you know, I knew that there were elements that I wanted, you know, if I look all the way to my death, I know that there are areas that I definitely hope that I have helped. But then if I look right at the beginning, you know, there was probably an element that it didn't come from purpose. You know, that's the truth of the matter. It came from an absolute love of creative products, unique products, people looking at things differently, knowing that I was a consumer, understanding that those products only came from small businesses. Then as I got to know the small businesses, did I understand that I wanted to champion the underdog. I like the idea of rebellion and doing it for yourselves and working 99% perspiration. You know, I really have, I love those values in people. And so when I looked at that combination of those values and what they were producing, I understood that small businesses were magical. And then that purpose grew over time. So I don't feel like the pressure now is like Greta Thunberg, you know, you don't have to have some sort of purpose that is scary. I've grown into my purpose over 17 years. I'm now able to articulate it very clearly because I am basically now an expert in it. But right at the beginning, it was a seedling, it was an acorn. And I think that that's what you can do, as long as, for instance, we knew that Not on the High Street's model was going to be helping small businesses. So as much as it was my purpose, my model fitted that purpose, but it was also fueled by a love of product and a love of retail and a love of doing things differently. So I think that you don't have to do this sort of life-changing, world-changing, societal-changing purpose, but I do think that you have to have the acorn. And then that was the model of Not on the High Street, almost, that acorn, and everything else has grown from it.
And I guess then, because you really understood that purpose, when there have been times like, you know, the pandemic, I know that you've had to pivot a lot, and it's probably been, I was going to ask you, you've kind of said it, you know, that having that purpose is what's actually helped you make those changes or get through the tough times. But what was the process like of pivoting? Because we came to Congregation of Inspiration last year, and I had to make a really tough decision to cancel that this year. And you know, I bet you were heartbroken having to do that. But how did you stay so positive and inspired? Because that's how you always come across when we ever see your SME SOS or talking to experts on your Insta lives. You know, you're just always so positive. But is it, how has it been kind of behind the scenes? Because we are doing both sides of the story, so we have to
we need to hear the gritty.
Well, you know what, so we have moved, so I was able to cope with moving the Congregation of Inspiration to next March 2021, so it didn't feel like I you know, it wasn't necessarily cancelling it, so I felt like that was okay, and that actually everyone would understand, and everyone has, and we're just moving the fun to next year. In 48 hours, when you have a purpose and you are a mother lion and you get out of bed, and if your child is sick, do you know what I mean? You'll do anything. You'll move that car with your bare hands. And so for me, you know, I saw that what was happening. I thought of my family first, and the next thing I thought about was my community, my other family. What were they going to need? And I had to be vulnerable at that point, like we would for our children, for anything, and do something. And we, in 48 hours, built SME SOS. I did my first Instagram live. I'd never ever done a video to camera ever. And then I basically, and I did a video, I think I did an interview or a bulletin every single day live for 2.5 months. Every day, one-man band. It was absolutely the hardest work ever, because not only were we having 3 experts a week, a special podcast, SME SOS, my own podcast, plus the bulletins, plus the social, 5 posts a day. I was writing everything, all this sort of stuff. Every day. I was, you know, it was a 6 o'clock start, and it was a 10 p.m. finish every single day, weekends and everything. It was grueling. I now look back at that, and we did this sort of edit of best ofs, and I actually have like an out of body, the whole team does, out of body experience how we pulled that off. But the thing was there is that every second I was literally flying. You know, it was the purpose that was driving me. Every day I was hearing how many people we were helping. We were demystifying the news. We were together. We created a life raft that we were all on together. And it helped me not focus on the negative. It helped me understand that actually we had a community. And you know, through that period of time, I feel like we've strengthened Holly & Co as a brand, almost a year's worth maybe of brand growth in that one period of time, because I was able to use that opportunity to cement some of the values of our business. And so that kept me going. And that, you know, it was absolutely, I will always say, one of the hardest pieces of work I have done in my career. So, you know, but it now is something that I'm hugely proud of. And we've grown in a phenomenal community through.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
we absolutely, your Instagram for us coming on, you know, if you hear something on the news, we just come on your page
We
and
do.
it's all just there for you in just simple terms.
Yeah.
And it just, for us,
Yeah.
it was so helpful.
Oh, I'm
It was amazing.
so happy. Yeah, it was an amazing thing. And you know, I've got a very small team, but you can imagine we shut down our offices at exactly the same time. So we shut down our shop, we shut down our offices, everyone moved to working from home. So not only was there that sort of what we were putting out there was the organization internally, there was the understanding of, you know, I'd never done a Zoom before. You know, I'd never done a Google Hangout before. What were we going to do with the team? How are we going to keep motivated? And also, if you're a founder, you've got a bit of a control freak thing going on. You know what? Everyone's going to work from home and it's going to be okay. Well, definitely that's not going to be the case. And I was proven wrong. You know, I've never been so proud in a group of people ever. And from that, we've made such changes in our business where we've shut our offices permanently. Because
we had a question actually from Jenny in Twickenham saying, will you and your team continue with flexible working? So you've answered that.
Yeah, no, we're not, because we're going to use that space differently. We're going to pivot the space and it's going to become a YouTube studio and all this sort of great stuff for our future. But the actual thing is that now I think what we'll probably see throughout many businesses is everyone rushed to go home. We did the best job of going home because we were all not, you know, we all instinctively knew that the way we worked was really archaic. It hadn't moved on since technology. Technology allows you to work flexibly, and yet there we all were sitting in offices. So actually I think we all ran home, and now with the offices opening up, I think, well, from, you know, GSK did a massive survey recently. 80% of their employees, when they have tens of thousands, said that they want to have a mix. Actually, they don't always want to be at home. They want to have that sort of touch points. So I think that the future is going to have that sort of mix between the two. And that's what we're going to do at Holly & Co. We're going to have, we've said every first Monday of the month and the last Monday of the month, we'll all be in the office. And then we'll arrange meetings whenever we want to and have a base. Again, that's what I think the future will be. We'll have HQs of companies and we'll meet, but we won't have this 9-to-5 rigid workplace anymore.
Do you find that you know, well, you and your team have been more productive not having to kind of stick to that office hours of 9 to 5? Do you think that people have become more productive, they're using their time more wisely and actually being at home? You know, a lot of people think that it's not going to work. You know, there's so many distractions, but actually people are realizing now that they've had to do it. It's well, we certainly feel we're way more productive.
And I think also you kind of have to be accountable for your output. You're not just doing FaceTime in the office. And I know that when we got rid of our office, which was like a year and a half ago now, we suddenly, you know, we weren't making a million cups of tea and thinking, but we are working, and then being exhausted when we got home and too tired to do stuff. So
it's a really interesting one. I think that, you know, our children need to go back to school, and I think that has been a huge you know, we haven't even seen the fruits of working from home because we've had to be teachers and carers and everything like that. But we as a team have been highly productive. I'm, you know, take my hats off to, you know, and I'm a parent as well, obviously, of everyone in my team who have had children and given their all, and which has meant that we're working more hours than ever. And I think once the children go back to school, it will settle down more, but we are 100% more productive. And actually also what it is, and I'm yet to understand it, I'm really interested in case studies coming out, but someone mentioned to me, you know, their child, their spouse, their partner had a meeting cancelled or something. They were meant to do childcare. You know, that juggle that we will have.
Yes,
to
I do.
In particular.
The pressure was off because normally she would need to be in the office at 9. So that would have caused a massive stress, that half an hour that she didn't have that childcare. But because she knew she was working her own time, that stress didn't even enter her life. And I think there's so many of us that have such stress to be a certain place at a certain time. And when that is relieved, I think great things will happen. So I don't even think that, you know, and my co-founder's just gone on maternity leave. Again, we're really interested in that in this new way of working. You know, does maternity leave have to be so stringent? You know, does it have to be? So I'm so interested what this period of time is now going to do to the ways that we work, what used to be the normal, 9 to 5s, maternity, holiday, all those things. And I think it's going to kick us up the butt and make us more modern in our approach.
Yeah, and actually that's interesting what you say about the stress of being in a certain time at a certain place, because I hadn't even thought of that. And especially when you've got kids and people are trying to drop them off at nursery and then get some, or at school and get somewhere, it's just so tough.
So tough.
And I think something I wanted to pick your brains on, I'm using this opportunity to do it, is just the juggle of motherhood and business. And I think I've seen what you've said, you know, about the fact that actually you're so inspiring. And I've seen your relationship with Harry that you post on Instagram, but also he works with you at Holly & Co. I think I've been served coffee by him before.
Yeah.
And
we've
so,
got our mugs up.
Oh yeah, just wanted you to see these actually. But yeah, so, and with the whole guilt, and I know that there will now be some stress relief, because there'll hopefully be much more flexibility for men and women in the workplace. But when Harry was really little, you know, I know that you missed some of his first steps and his first words, but at what point did you start believing that kind of shift, or being able to shake off that guilt and go, actually, do you know what, I'm a really brilliant role model and our relationship is really good because we have quality time together? You know, how did you kind of start believing in that? Because I know a lot of people who follow us and see my journey with Lola like really sympathize and would love probably to hear what you have to say about it.
You know, again, I think it's this thing that you can retrospectively look at this, and I could say that there were these moments, but I think it's again that acorn growing into an oak tree. You know, it's about your mindset. It's about me talking about it. And for anyone listening, it's about hearing us saying the truth. And it won't eradicate your guilt, because we are born with the guilt, right? And so, but it's more about that you have now at least two sides to the story. You know, you have their ways of actually thinking about this. But, you know, for me, it is the fact that our younger generation are part of a future that we have no clue about. You know, they're not being educated enough at the moment, being entrepreneurial and putting creativity at the center and heart. If we're in a world of AI, we need to be more human than possible. Now, I can say that now and feel a bit wise and all this sort of stuff, but actually at the time when Harry was 3 months old, when I started Not on the High Street, when the nanny was sick and I had to put him underneath the desk with a DVD player and What's It and a beaker and basically thing, and he was very used to that, and he would come and do all the bin collections when he was walk, and everything was. The fact is that I kept the closeness and a bond between us by this quality of time. I would allow him to know why I was working so hard. I would bring him into the office. He was always involved. You know, he was involved in when Holly & Co. launched it. When we launched, he was there at midnight when we pressed the green light for the website. And he was, 10 at the time or something, asleep on the floor, because it actually ended up being 2 a.m. And but you know, I've kept him next to me. I've kept him as my buddy. And over time now, as a nearly 16-year-old boy, you know, he'll go and speak to small businesses. He understands it. He's become highly empathetic, because I actually think he's realized what purpose is, you know, and actually that's very young at that time to realize all these things. So the thing is, you're going to have guilt. But I hope that when I talk about it and other women talk about it, that you plant the acorn that just basically says, I am providing a service to my children, because in the future, they're going to need to know what hard work is. They're going to need to know what the entrepreneurial spirit is. They're going to need to know what a side hustle is. They're going to have 6 to 8 careers in their lifetime. You know, the majority of them will be entrepreneurs, but the new form of entrepreneur, which will basically mean they work for themselves. They might go and work for organizations, but they're going to need to see incredible women, incredible men do amazing things. And so that now, when I think of him now at 16, I have not, excuse the language, fucked him up. That was my worry. That was a huge, huge worry. And over the years, you just bank it, don't you? You're like, okay, I've got away with that year. It's okay. I'm still standing. And then you start to them themselves. So
and he's obviously got your genes. He's a little entrepreneur himself, isn't he?
Yes,
and he's got a company, Sugar Boy.
Yes, he is.
Actually, we bought some of his.
Yeah, we bought at Congregation.
At Congregation. Sugar Boy is going through a bit of a transition period because actually we've got exams coming up, we've got girls, we've got parties. So do you know what I mean? So
teenage priorities.
Yes, the priorities are changing. Yes, but we're going to get it back on track.
Oh, amazing. Oh, and something that both of us massively admire about you, Holly, is your positivity. You're just kind of this ray of absolute sunshine, and even down to your outfits, they're just phenomenal. But what we really love is also how honest and open you are about the more emotional and stressful times. Obviously we've touched on this throughout, but do you have anything specific that you do to manage your mental health and stress levels? Like what do you do?
I do. Yeah. Well, you know what? I know this sounds, all I can say is I adore what I do. So I'm not compromised in any way. Mm-hmm. So when I am feeling low, it's not feeling low because I don't like what I do. I'm being forced into making money or working for someone that I don't like, or all these sorts of things. So when I feel low, it's on the backdrop of actually knowing that I am surrounded in a world that I absolutely love. The other thing is that it's also being open and honest, as you said, to my team. So if I'm having a particularly hard week, I will actually let the team know that. That I will also let them know that, Holly Hurricane is not always Holly Hurricane. And actually being part of the team means they get to see that bit of me. I ask them to take care of me. So I actually ask them to look after me, because I will always put them and the plight and our mission first, and they just need to have my back a bit. So if I'm honest and open in that way, I get surrounded, fortunately, by a lot of people that love me and will look after me like I look after them. But it is, Holly Hurricane comes with the downs. You can't have the ups if you don't have the downs. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that keeps me going is understanding that and I know I've said this a lot, and I think I'll say it forever, is on my 40th birthday, I worked out that we have 29,000 days on this planet, and at my 40th, and I'm 43 now, I had 14,000 days left. So I'm lucky not to suffer from depression. So my lows are just shit days and bad weeks, and do you know what I mean? Those sorts of things. And really, I put it into context that every single day I wake up, I will never have that moment again. And this day, I get to build something I've never even thought about. So it always picks me up. And as I said, I'm lucky not to have mental health issues such as depression. Mm-hmm. I have worked with people who absolutely have suffered, and I've been through that journey, and I just can't sympathize enough when people are at that low. But I've been lucky enough to avoid that, but also recognize bad days as just that. Yeah. And that I'm not in a black hole, and I'm going to come out of it. And also, learning coaching. I'm a good coach of myself. It's understanding how to talk to yourself as if you're your best friend. So I'm actually not that harsh on myself. I like who I am. I do look at her quite fondly. I always look at her as quite a young Holly. And I sort of love her for what she's done and gone through. And so I'm you know, I'm a bit kind to myself, like I would if I was my younger daughter. And so I think that also helps, you know, and once you realize that you're a vessel for a mission, and I'm not being like all virtuous here, but, you know, the only way I can do all this stuff online and, you know, be this is by not necessarily looking at my wrinkles and caring about my weight and all these sorts of things, because I know that my body is holding that passion and love for others. And that's really all that matters. And I love Holly for that, you know, and if I love Holly, then I can help her get out of bed. I'll be there when she's 90, you know, I'll look back at what we've done. And I think that there is a lot, you know, you need to have that self-love.
Wow, Holly. Oh,
I know.
These months.
And I think actually it's so right, because a lot of people have this like kind of inner critic, don't they? And actually it's kind of, by you, like you saying, just being kind to yourself, you kind of shut that inner critic up. And there's a really good children's film called Inside Out where
oh my
god, it's so good, isn't it? But it's kind of like what you're saying, you know, you have this person who treats you really kindly inside, like a best friend.
Yeah, I look at it, I always look at things maternally, so I do look at her as a younger Holly, and you know, and I you know, I just try and be there for her. And I think that that's the thing. So many years that wasn't the case. You know, I had a massive inner critic. I had the imposter syndrome, which I still do, you know, we all do. But it's that thing of at some point, am I going to not like myself forever? You know, it's like when you look at pictures of yourself at 17 years old in a black bikini in Ibiza and you were all covered up thinking that you were so huge. And then you look back now and you think, oh my goodness, I could give Kate Moss a run for her money. And yet at the time you didn't feel like that. And it's like, when you know that, are you going to spend the rest of your life doing this? You know, and at 43, I feel like it's a good age to just, you know, be at peace a little bit.
Yeah. And actually I heard someone on Instagram saying that now people are jealous of people's inner peace. You know, you used to look at people and compare yourself, and now you're like, they're so at one with themselves. I wish I could be like that. And it's so true. It definitely is. Holly, we're unfortunately coming to the end of our chat.
Oh.
Very sad to say, but
it's been lovely.
So great. We've still got one more question, don't we?
It's my favourite part.
This is Gracie's favourite part. So we like to end with a quote, and we would love to hear your favourite quote and why. And I bet it's something incredible.
Oh my gosh! What is it? My goodness! My goodness! Oh, what is it then? I think that basically. It's actually a funny one. It's not even a soulful one. Is that okay? Did you have soulful? Okay. Well, it's always a bit of a naughty one. Can I swear?
Yes,
of course.
So my favourite quote, and one that when you're building a business has stuck with me, is it's better to have a hole than an arsehole.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And the reason is because when you're building a business, the first thing that you do, because you're a founder and you're doing everything, is you just would need to hire somebody. And then as your team grows, you know, and you're all the bolts are coming off this 400-mile-an-hour speed train that is your business. Do you know what I mean? That you basically just feel that if you just hire the next person, I know you guys know this feeling, right?
And actually, I think you might have given us this quote when I first met you.
Because the thing is, you go and hire that next person and it's going to be fine, you know, and the next person. And the thing that you realise now in hindsight, you only have to hire one bad person and it will unravel your business, I predict, 12 months, okay? So, because by the time you know that they're wrong, it takes you 6 months to get the courage to kick them out of the business. Yeah. So my message is, and it's better to have a hole than an arsehole. It is better to work those extra 3 hours in the evening than dealing with the stress of someone messing up your dreams.
Yeah.
And so
I think I might have to get that printed out and put on my wall.
Yeah, I think we need a constant reminder of that.
Well, you know what? I've got it stitched, hand cross-stitched into an ornate frame that looks like some grandmother's, like, you know, welcome home. And it actually has that. So people always take a double take and look at it, thinking my grandmother has stitched something, but actually it's that saying.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's
Holly.
such a good way to end.
Oh.
Honestly, yeah, Holly, we could talk to you forever. We're just so inspired by you, and we're sure.
Congratulations on everything you're building. I think you're going to do amazing things. You already have, and you know, you're ones to watch. So I'm thrilled that I'm your second guest. Very honoured.
No, we are so honoured.
Thank you so much, and yeah, thank you for being so honest too.
And
yeah, you're very welcome.
And thank you to everyone watching as well. Make sure you follow Holly at Holly Tucker and at holly.co, where you can also find links to my favourite podcast ever, Conversations of Inspiration. So we hope to see you back here next month, where we're going to be talking to By Sarah London, who are another sister-founded business, and they have a story of true survival and sisterhood. So it'll be a great one.
It's going to be so good. So Holly, will you join us in the classic Zoom wave by saying goodbye to everyone? Yeah. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and thank you so much, Holly.
Bye. Bye.